And as far as when you did get that day off, what you just...
Well, there was, Suva was the big city, and first it was Latoka, the other side of the aisle. We would go into we had a carry-all. They would, you know, if you were off duty, like you could go to the carry-all to Suva and have lunch or something. There were several stores and different places. It was, I went back to Fiji several years ago because I just had to go back there. And most of the island, it's the least commercial, I think, of all the big places in the Pacific. But Suva was so different because it was like real touristy. But the rest of the places were still quite nice. And but there were places that you could, vacations, like tourist places, vacation places. But still, it was still primitive enough to see that, you know, what it was like from before. The sunsets, it's a beautiful place. The sunsets and the sunrises. Very tropical.
So you enjoyed your trip back.
Yeah.
Did it bring up any emotions? Did it bring up any emotions
well,
in the travel?
I went with an elder hostel group, and the other people had never been there before, so they didn't have the same feelings that I had. The Grand Pacific Hotel, which was, we thought, the most luxurious place in the world, had, there was just a little shack left. I don't know what we never could find out whatever happened to that place. There wasn't, you know, it was still quite primitive. But,
when you went to Fiji, was the hospital still there? Was there any similar to the hospital?
The Sambeto, the hospital in Sambeto that was used as a sanatorium for TB. Then the hospital that we had on the other side, on the Sula side of the island, was used as a hospital there. And that was built by the New Zealanders. We built the one on the Sambeto side.
Near the coast. So how did you stay in touch with your family back here in the United States?
Well, we wrote letters, and our mail was all censored and clipped. You know, we weren't supposed to say anything about we weren't supposed to tell anybody where we were. That was the interesting part. When we got to New Zealand, they knew where we came from, and they knew that we were going to Fiji. And the civilians in Auckland told us where we were going when we left there. That's typical.
And you couldn't communicate with your people back in the States?
Well, we did.
That information.
There were such little things that you could write about, you know, so say how beautiful the moon was. And my father wrote a letter back and said, we have a moon here too. But he knew that I couldn't, you know, that I couldn't write stuff. All the secrets.
So, but you did stay in touch by way of...
yeah, well, I mean, it took a long time for mail to get back.
Sure.
And mail was very important to us. And we used to get packages, too, but sometimes they weren't fit for, you know, whatever. If there was food in them, it wasn't very good.
So now before we get to Georgia, did you, when you think about I know you mentioned that the kids were young, and is that the most strongest emotion that get you, you know, from a standpoint of being you're doing your nurse services there during war? Is that the most, the strongest emotion that you just regret seeing so many young kids? Parents like that?
Yeah. I used to think that when we lost the patient, I used to think it was such a waste.
Okay. I understand.
Life, you know.
I understand.
There are emotions. I mean, even though I'm a nurse, I have feelings for many of these things.
Right. Okay. So now let's say we're in Georgia, and you're close to being discharged. Were you?
When I first went there, I didn't know when I was going to be discharged.
Oh.
I got there before before the war was still on.
Okay. Okay. And you weren't then, because like I said, you were a commissioned officer, so you had to serve until they decommissioned you or whatever.
Right. Until they didn't need us anymore.
Right. So once you found out that you were going home, I assume you communicated this with your family in Baltimore, and what was the reaction?
Well, they were happy that I was getting out of the service. And I had met my husband overseas. I didn't tell him that.
Yeah. Okay.
He was in our unit.
Oh, really? At the hospital unit.
But he left to go to OCS, officer training. They sent him back to the States. That was we were overseas about a year.
Okay.
And so then we just communicated by letters.
He was in the same hospital unit as you?
Yes, he was a medical administrative.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So did he, when he came back for OCS, and you finished OCS, did he go overseas?
No, he never went overseas again. He was stationed in California, and then he was stationed in Charleston, South Carolina. And that's where, I didn't know that when I came back from overseas. I wrote to tell him that I had gotten my orders to go, and I would go home on leave. And he sent a telegram saying that, to Miami when I was, that train would stop in Charleston, and that he and a couple of his friends would be at the station, that he knew that I couldn't leave the train, but that at least we could say hello. And so he had his henchmen out there. They were watching each car. The porter said I couldn't, what do you call the person that's in charge of the train? He said I couldn't get off the plane, the train.
Okay.
So I figured, well, I can't get off the train. But then the porter heard him, and the porter said that if I came over to that door, at the end of that he would let me off. He said, but you better come right back, or else, his head would be. So he let me off, and then I came right back. A minute or two.
You guys were just engaged, and you weren't.
We didn't become engaged until several months after I was back in the States.
All right. So when you got home, how was the what would you recall?
Actually, I went home on leave, but I didn't go home afterwards because we were engaged. When he was in Charleston, I was in Oliver General. Said, come to Charleston for the weekend before you go home. And I never got home. Stark General Hospital was being closed, and my husband was in charge of supplies and things. So that they decided to have a party at the Officers Club, and then some of them decided that there should be a wedding, and so we had to go to into Charleston to get our license over the weekend, and we were married Saturday night when the Officers Club party took place.
Oh, wonderful! Wow, that's a wonderful story. We ought to talk about that.
That wasn't part of it.
Oh, Lord, that's interesting. I know you mentioned that you had some lasting friendships, and one of your classmates were lifelong friends. Did you join any military organizations, or have you been a member of any military organizations since?